Hi, welcome back to Cheyenne Wyoming Urban Gardener. This is Debbie, and I am recording a video on my brand new phone. This is a Samsung Galaxy 9 Plus. I know, for most people, it's probably old. It's still 4G, not 5G. But for me, it is a new phone because I got it in purple. And it does record better videos. I already did a test video on it, and it records about 30 minutes instead of the 15 minutes or so that I was dealing with before. So we're going to test this out, see how it does, and just basically walk around the garden a little bit and talk about some things that's been going on in the last couple of days. In the last video I mentioned that I had been potting up some seedlings that had came up in some of my containers, probably from seeds from last season, of like petunias and borage and celosia and stuff like that. And I've been potting those up and had put it on Facebook groups in a group for plants, and had told people if they wanted any to come on out and get some. They're free. And I've had 3 people so far that have came out and gotten some plants. And then when they saw the garden, they wanted to tour everything in the garden. So I took them through the garden, and they've asked to come back and if they can tour the garden at a later time just to see how everything is going at that point. And I'm like, sure, you can come on and tour it as much as you want to. So this is the corn. I did get in here recently, as of yesterday, and cut out all of the suckers, and there's suckers again already. They pretty much started immediately putting more suckers on as soon as I took the suckers off. And that's an unfortunate thing with the early Sun Glow hybrid, is that you do have a lot of suckers on the corn, and you do need to remove those to be able to have a good harvest. So I got in here and removed them, and I'll have to get in here and remove them again probably in the next day or so, and I'll keep doing that until they produce. Anyway, that is what is going on. The corn is getting way bigger now. It is definitely at about 2 feet tall, and this is a short variety of corn. It only gets to about 4.5 feet. So in the next probably 6 inches or so, we'll start looking at little tassels that'll start coming on. So we shall see on that. It's a very early variety. Normally is ready within it's supposed to be 62 days, but typically it's about 70 from what I have observed. So we should start getting corn out of here mid to late August. And that is if we don't get killed out by a hailstorm, which is kind of looking like might be a possibility with us just looking at the sky right now. We're supposed to get some storms today. We had some storms earlier yesterday and today. And they were a lot of wind, just a tiny bit of rain, nothing significant or even to talk about. But we avoided the hail. But always when it rains here in Wyoming, you always kind of wonder, is it going to hail? And if it does hail, is it going to be that damaging? So we kind of have to watch that when it happens, especially because I have my lemon tree out here, my mandarin oranges, the hibiscus and stuff like that. Those would all have to be carried inside, otherwise it would definitely beat most of the leaves off of them. Anyway, everything is looking fantastic. I do have that purple Gubera daisy, which is the newest addition pretty much. And I'm noticing with it, you just need to kind of keep the stalks for the blooms dead-headed when they look like they're dying back, which is that one right there that's kind of drooping. I left it in there just so you can see. So just make sure to pull that bloom with the stalk all the way to the base out, and then it will continue putting on new daisies. And I think I've got another one I need to do that with right there. But I've been seeing more and more. These popped up in the last couple of days when I did that, so I've been keeping up with it. We planted some more parsley seed in the area where it was kind of sparse in that container. That's the parsley right there, triple curl. So we went in and planted some more seeds, and I just kind of cleaned that up because I had a couple of weeds in there. Got those out of there, and a couple of flowers that had popped up like petunias, and had pulled those out. Lettuce is still doing wonderfully. My lettuces have not went to bolt as yet. I did have an issue with some radishes that went to bolt, and I pulled those out. They were in this container over here. I pulled those all out and planted some more lettuce in there. So we should have some lettuce up pretty soon. Now I do have other radishes that are planted, but they were planted a little bit later. And they have not started bolting. They've been weathering the hot weather just fine. And we've not really been super hot anyway. We've been in the 70s, upper 70s and 80s. A couple of days we almost got to 90, but not anything that's going to be like super, super, super hot. Butter dish squash that I had most recently planted, they're doing wonderfully. They had came up and are now starting to get their second and third leaves on there, and then they will pretty much take off from that point. Mints still doing fantastic, and I do have some tomatillos that are up. Those are giant tomatillos, but the other ones have not came up yet, and two of those cells, these two, are the tomato seeds from the huge tomato the Suburban Homesteader Wyoming / Arizona sent. And again, this was the soil that I had gotten after I ran out, which was oh gosh, I forget the name of the soil now, but anyway, there were pieces of wood all in it. It was not very good at all. You can see the pieces in there. These are poppies, and one of the containers of poppies had one come up and then it just died off. So it looks terrible. Just a bunch of sticks. And I prefer the variety of potting soil called Master Garden. And I'll show you the bag for that because a lot of people have been asking. Let me turn it around. This is kind of the area where, outside of my garden shed, that I up pot some things. So this is the bag. It's called Master Garden Premium Potting Mix. And if you look, let me show you the soil inside. That is just nice, beautiful, very fine soil. It is nothing like that previous stuff that I got, and which was the Schultz. And usually I have good luck with Schultz, but I think that they are just shoving soil out right now just to try to get it sold. And just, it's not ready. It's still hot when you get it. Just not good. Just not good. I don't like it. So I went back to using Master Garden when I could find it. It was not able to be found earlier in the season. So then I finally found it, and I've been doing the soil with that and haven't had any issues. But the Schultz stuff, not good. Just not good. Don't buy it. Sorry to say that, Schultz. I liked your company. Don't anymore. So right now the butter dish squash are growing in it. They seem to be doing okay, but most of the other things that I've planted have struggled with that soil. And that included the lettuce, which was really, really slow to get any size on it because I had amended the soil with the Schultz a little bit earlier in the season before I planted. This is the cilantro that I've planted to replace the pot over here. We harvested almost all of it and it had to come back out, but it's starting to go to bloom, so it's bolting. So we'll pull that out pretty soon, harvest the rest of that, and then go ahead and replant some more cilantro in there. But we do have cilantro coming up in this container, so that will be good and get started up. Alyssum and the plants that my daughter made in this container still looking fantastic. In fact, it's kind of shading out the two little center plants that she put in here, so we're gonna have to watch that, but they're beautiful as well. These are the radishes that did bolt, and I went ahead and replaced those with lettuce seed in there. It's just a gourmet blend in there of lettuce seeds. The clematis did bloom. It is purple, so let me show you that. And there it is. I'm not real sure if the other one's going to bloom. There's actually two plants in here, but the other one still looks like it's just trying to get its feet, so it may or may not bloom, maybe a little bit later in the season. I'm not sure. These are the clearance hibiscus that we have picked up, and this one did lose a lot of leaves for some reason in the last couple of days. So I had my daughter put some more soil in it. We're going to try to transplant it pretty soon. Going to need some bigger pots because we ran out of containers. So we need to get some bigger containers for those. So we'll be looking to pick those up pretty soon, probably at a Goodwill or something. All of my pepper plants are actually starting to bloom and get peppers on them. So that is exciting. And we'll show you the whole garden as we go through. The 50 varieties of basil that we planted in that pot are all starting to come up. So is the alyssum. So again, we had a lot of people come out and pick up some plants that had came up, like the celosia and the petunias. They're black petunias. Probably some couple other colors in there because we had a lot of petunias last season. And just some different things, borage and stuff like that. And the people that came, they wanted to tour the garden, and they want to come back later in the season to tour the garden again, because they keep saying it just looks so beautiful and how exciting and motivating it is. So I welcome them to come and tour the garden as much as they want to. And if I have extra plants, I actually gave away a rooted sucker from a yellow pear tomato to one lady that came today, and she was just excited about how well that it looked. And you know, that's the way you can help out your community, especially if they were not able to get a garden in themselves, or something prevented them from being able to pick up plants in time, or maybe they just were not prepared for the gardening season. Then we can help by giving them some plants, and that's exactly what I did. It doesn't really cost me anything because the pots that I gave them are the pots that came with plants that I've previously purchased and no longer either use them, or I have so many at this point of the smaller pots that I don't need anymore. And a little bit earlier in the season, I was struggling to find enough pots, but that's just because I had planted so many seeds. So just had loads of those, and I'm actually thinking about next season of doing that, just planting way more seeds than I need and having plants come up and just giving them out to people to help them along in their own gardens. So anyway, we're still over here looking at the containers, and we've got the yellow pear tomatoes. We've got 2 of those. We actually have yellow pear tomatoes that are started already. And they're actually getting more and more all the time. You can see some yellow pear tomatoes hanging there. This one is blooming like crazy. It hasn't gotten any tomatoes on it yet, but this plant is a lot bigger than the other one, and it just continues to get bigger and bigger. And then we got a sun sugar gold right here beside of it that has definitely put on a lot of new growth. Even those 2 in the back, which were the smaller sun sugar golds, have by leaps and bounds grown in the last couple of days. Cantaloupes and Crenshaw melons and cucumbers, all in this pot, are just flourishing. They have nice big leaves on them because this pot is really big. This is the size comparison, it's huge. It's actually bigger than the pot that I have my lemon tree in, and that pot is pretty huge. But this one is actually bigger. It's more like a barrel. And so all the little plants in there are doing fantastic, nice healthy leaves, nice healthy growth. And I just continue putting in organic fertilizer so it has something to feed off of, as well as all of the other ones. I do need to get in here and cover up some roots on this tomato plant because the roots started coming up, and that's just because it keeps putting roots on. So I need to get in here, put some more soil in, kind of tamp that down. And otherwise, the plant is doing fantastic, blooming, as you can see. And I've had loads of pollinators this year, loads of honeybees, bumblebees, mason bees, and butterflies. I've had the most butterflies this season that I've ever had. Just amazing amount of growth and amazing amount of butterflies. So all the watermelons doing absolutely fantastic. Let me show you the size of these leaves. They are just huge. They could be bigger, but we're not in the South. And these are smaller varieties of watermelons anyway. I've got Black Diamond in here, Doll Baby, Sugar Baby, Klondike, and a couple of other types in here. But I look forward to the Doll Baby because they have multicolors in them. There could be yellow watermelon, it could be a red watermelon, it could be pink. We'll find out. We've got watermelons actually planted all around in the strawberry patch. In this big kiddie pool has been converted. Basil doing amazing in there, and we're actually going to transplant our dark opal basil into the center section as well, and a couple of others. We got some cinnamon basil we're going to transplant in here too. So all that doing wonderfully. This is I believe this one is the Crimson Sweet watermelon, and that one is doing amazing. This is a watermelon seed that I had gotten from a watermelon that we had picked up at a farmer's market last season. And so I decided to name it Miller's Farmstead watermelon. I'm not really sure what variety it's going to be. It's a little bit slower, so I think it's probably a bigger variety. And I do know that I have a couple of Charleston Gray watermelons in here as well. And so they're just kind of mixed in. We'll find out what we get a little bit later in the season when they start setting fruit. I guess we'll find out. Cucumbers. Okay, this is the thing with the cucumbers. I've got spring Burpless cucumbers, straight 8 cucumbers, Space Master cucumbers, and I have white spine cucumbers as well. These are the straight 8 here, and I just planted those about a week and a half ago, and they're already just growing by leaps and bounds. However, these spring Burpless cucumbers I planted at the same time, and these guys looked like this just a couple days ago. They look like this just today. They have grown by amazing amount just today. And so has everything else in here. Herb garden's still looking fantastic. You can hear the wind picking up. This is a storm that's coming through. It's supposed to rain like crazy, so we'll find out. I actually planted some morning glories in here. You can see those there. Probably making a mistake. We did get a trellis for it. We're just going to try to keep them from going to seed. But that's the update on the morning glories. I think all of them have came up at this point. So we'll see how those go. And there should be all kinds of different colors in there. And there's even a double one, I believe. All of my dill is just continuing to grow. This is a slower variety called a Long Island Mammoth. And I did plant some more in here kind of to fill in because they started coming up pretty sparsely. I didn't have a whole lot of seed with those, so I went in and put in some other variety that I have, and they are just now starting to come up. We have black Spanish radishes and the Crimson Giants in here, and also I believe it's lady slipper radishes or something like that. Got those all growing in here. They're all doing great. Of course, we have the Four Seasons lettuce still doing very well over here, just letting it continue to grow because it's a more of a slower growing variety. Our chamomile has been harvested off of so many times, and I actually had one of the people that came and picked up some plants. She gave me a yellow variety of chamomile, and it's right there. We just decided to plant it over here. And so I look forward to that a little bit later in the season, but all the plants are doing wonderful that I just transplanted a couple days ago. And of course that chamomile is doing great. We've got some more growing in. You can kind of see them all scattered in there. I want this to get a lot bigger. Our lemon balm is just massive at this point. It's staying very round, which I like, and doing very well. So are the salvia. Salvia is kind of dying back at this point. Once all the flowers are gone off of it, then I will probably go in and trim it out. Or trim it down so that way it doesn't prevent growth on everything else. I've got some cucumbers kind of scattered around all throughout. Those are up. You can see that there. And there's a couple more in different places. And then we have some more zinnias in here. And I did plant some more flowers, but I forgot to stake them, and I'm not sure what they are. And we have some rosemary planted in here that has came up and is starting to flourish. Oregano, I've already harvested some off of. They're doing great. And then we have some birdhouse gourds in here. 2 of them came up. I only had about 5 seeds, but 2 of them came up, and I had kept them for a while, so I'm surprised they even came up, but they're doing great. They have just gotten huge, and they just started coming up a couple days ago. So we've got that. My daylilies, the red ones, are blooming, and they have loads and loads of blooms this year. So I'll have to show you those when they get a little bit more full. But isn't this camera amazing on this phone? This is the new phone, Samsung Galaxy 9 Plus. It's a lot better than my 8 Plus was. It's actually pretty dark out here because we've got a storm coming through. And there's the other cucumbers, and I got some more sunflowers planted in there that just started to come up right in this section. And then some more flowers back here that I've planted. Yellow Columbine. I did take this plant down a lot this season, so it does have a little group of flowers, but that's all I need right now. When these start going to seed, I saved the seed, but they fortunately have not reseeded themselves like crazy in here. I did plant some more lettuce right here at the base, and I'm actually going to trim this back a little bit more. But I did plant some more lettuce here. This is a red marvel lettuce, and it did come up, so we will be looking forward to that. And again, these are the tomato suckers that I had rooted. Went ahead and got those in pots. They bounced back like crazy. They wilted a little bit the first day. This one's still wilting a little bit because it had the least roots. But all the rest of them look fantastic, and I can start to move those out into the sun. I did give one of them away, the bigger of the group. There were 5, and I gave one away. Planted one in the garden, so there was actually 6. So that one I gave away today. She really was happy with that. It was a yellow pear tomato. These are all yellow pear tomatoes or sun sugar gold. I should have again tagged them, but I didn't. But they're one of the two, and they're both good. So either way, so everything looking great in here. Seedlings potatoes are beginning to bloom. These are the Kennebec potatoes, 4 rows. The one that my grandson planted is the one that's starting to bloom first. They were all planted at the same time, but they are the smaller of the section. The larger ones are the seedling potatoes that I had this year, and they are just now starting to get their flowers on them. But again, I planted these about the last week of May, and they have just definitely put on a lot of growth. And I apologize about my ands and ums. I'm just going through everything and trying to remember everything. Sometimes I can't. So anyway, borage doing amazing, basil doing amazing. Kellogg's breakfast tomatoes doing fantastic. They're definitely starting to pick up some growth. This one is the smallest one out of the bunch. These were later tomato seeds that I started. So they're just a little bit more slow, but they are definitely starting to catch up in growth, especially that one. I did plant the Tahitian Squash in here that Sandy from Suburban Homesteader Wyoming / Arizona had sent me to replace the ones that did not come up. And I did actually have one of them come up. It's a little rough looking because the mulch kept kind of blowing over the top of it, and I kept trying to scoop the mulch out before anything happened. But unfortunately, it looks like it's a little rough. But I'm going to leave it and let it see if it continues to grow. It's actually on the north side of the house. This is the south side. So these should come up pretty quick and take off pretty fast. So I'm looking forward to that. And there is one lemon cucumber and possibly 2 that came up right here, and I'll let those run up this area. That's why I put a trellis in here, and I've got a few more in my garden shed, so I'll put a few more of those in there, let those trellis up, but I will train the squash to go the other direction towards the corn. And potatoes by that point will probably be mostly gone as far as the foliage, so I'll run them down each of the rows. I'll leave the potatoes in, but just let them run down each of the rows as well. But we'll see how far they get. And again, that corn just looks fantastic. And all the beans in here that I planted, the Royal Burgundy beans, are massive plants, and they're very, very young so far. That's them in there. And all the rattlesnake pole beans, Kentucky Wonder pole beans, are doing fantastic, that are planted up against each of the rows of corn. Those are doing great. It's really difficult to get in here and do anything, but I'm so glad that I did that. Kind of a modified Three Sisters. I've got the Tahitian Squash planted here at the beginnings of the rows. They are doing amazing. Definitely putting on a lot of growth, and I'm going to have to thin this one out because there's 2 more plants in there. Only one needs to be there, and I hate doing that because I hate to have them die off. I'll try to transplant them, but it doesn't always work. And sometimes they'll just look rough for a while and get a little slow start. So this one I need to thin out as well. But I did already thin this one, and I transplanted those. And they're rough, but they may come on. So anyway, that's what I have left of the borage after handing out borage seedlings today. So only 6 left at this point. I think I've got 1 left in the garden that had reseeded itself, but otherwise running out of borage at this point. And I do still have plenty of seed. All of this looking fantastic. This is my grandson's little raised bed garden. His broccoli is doing great. He's got tomatoes on his tomato plant. That's a yellow pear tomato. And he's got lettuce, and he's got some radishes coming up. He's got a couple of cucumbers, and his little pepper plant is blooming and has now two branches of it. It's beginning to rain, so I'm going to have to be careful with that. I'm not sure if this phone is actually waterproof like the other. All the beans through here looking amazing, and everything just growing fantastic. So I won't go through everything. It's starting to rain pretty hard at this point. So like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notices on new videos as they come out. And we shall see you in the next one. And good luck on everybody growing and having their garden turn into the garden jungle as it becomes a little bit later in the season. Again, we'll see you in the next one.